Hello everyone, welcome to Supply Chain Management or Supply Chain Design course. This course will consist of 12 sessions, and for session number 1 has a title, The Basics of Supply Chain and Operations Management. And for these sessions, we have several questions to be answered. For the first question, what is the transformation process and value creation? The transformation process actually is something like a process of transforming raw materials into more valuable products or process. For instance, if we would like to produce a chair, then we need to transform a log or wood to be a chair, and therefore it has a higher value. And what is the operations and operations management? Actually, management can be defined in general about planning, organizing, actuating, and controlling. And therefore, operations management, actually all of those that I have mentioned before, employ into operations. And operation itself has several inputs, for instance, from raw materials, from workers, from energy, and also from any other kind of infrastructures. And the third question in what is supply chain and supply chain management. Supply chain is beyond operations. For instance, if we have four kinds of operations, starting from raw material processing, and then product manufacturing, and then distributions. And therefore, supply chain is about how to synchronize all of those three operations. And the next question is about which decisions are within the scope of supply chain and operations management. So in supply chain, the decisions include price and demand planning, how much we should deliver to our customers, and at what price. While in operations management include, for instance, how much or how many to produce, or how much or how many to store. And the next question is about which objectives are used to measure the performance of supply chain and operations management. And depending on the decisions, for instance, how much or how many to deliver or to distribute, that is one decisions of supply chain. And then the performance measure, because that is the impact of those decisions. For instance, in distribution, the performance measure should be how much supply chain has backlog or even excessive stocks in the chain itself. While in operations management, it is more about efficiency in the operations line. For instance, how much or how many stock we have by average, or how much the utilization of our production process. If we are interested to learn further about supply chain management, then we have to have a higher qualification in order to be able to be a supply chain or operation managers. And what kind of qualification? There are a lot of certification available that can give us some kind of distinction or credential in job market, and which career paths are possible for supply chain and operations manager. And yeah, that is about what kind of jobs that we can have if we have those kinds of qualification in either supply chain or operations management. Okay. Okay, now we start with this picture. In front of us, we have Santa Claus. And according to this book, the book says that supply Santa Claus is the best supply chain and operation manager in the world because this guy have has to collect raw materials to make toys and then produce the toys and deliver the toys as presents to many children across the globe only in one night. Can you imagine? Only in one night, this guy have to distribute so many presents to children across the globe. And therefore, supply chain and operations management is very complex task. It is everywhere, starting from raw material procurement, production, logistic, not only in distribution, but also in healthcare operations, airlines, entertainment parks, also for passenger transport, hotels, building and construction, and there are many more business activities relies on the capability of supply chain and operations. If we go back to our first question, what is transformation process? In front of us, we have a diagram about the transformation process. Basically, the transformation process consists of three different layers or phase. That is input, the value adding, and outputs. As an input, we can have labor, machines, materials, and information. As a value adding, that is transformation process, that is what we can produce by utilizing this input. And the output should be what we need to deliver to our customer. Can be products, can be services, can be also emissions. For instance, if we uh, sell would like to deliver uh, some kind like uh, energy, then inside that products actually contain some emissions. For instance, if you would like to deliver oil or gas, for instance, and in order to have this transformation process under control, and then we need some kind of control mechanism, and therefore we have dot lines here as a feedback. After we have the feedback, we can again start increasing the efficiency of input utilization and also the efficiency of transformation process to produce more outputs, and therefore we will have higher added value in terms of products, services, or emissions. And then we have a definition about operations. Operation is a function or system that transforms input into outputs of greater value. So it is the keyword, greater value. In other words, the operation function is responsible for matching demand and supply. Let's say the demand of outputs, for instance, products, is high, but if our inputs is not sufficient to produce products that satisfy the demand, then our transformation process will be undervalued. And again, we are talking about value and what we need to put into our transformation process is to add value. So we have another terminology about value added. Here, value added is any activity in a process that is essential to deliver the service or product to the customer. Okay, let's say I will give you one example. If you go to a supermarket, just around this campus, we have several supermarkets. And let's say in one supermarket, if you could identify at least one value added activity, for instance, in a cashier table, after a customer complete his or her order process, then he or she would bring products from the supermarket into the line so that the one cashier can put the product into a scanner and then calculate how much a particular customer have to pay. So can you imagine, for instance, if one cashier is not that experienced, have sufficient training, for instance, and you have to wait for a long time to get your product of calculated or computed, put into scanner, and moreover, maybe there are many customer behind you in the line, and therefore uh, the value added of that cashier line become low because he or she cannot satisfy the customer expectation to get very quick transaction in the cashier line. And for instance, if you go into supermarket and then you have to wait for a long time to get uh, your your products, your purchased product, put into scanner, and then you start making a payment, and then your waiting time in the line that can be categorized as a non-value added because you do not want to wait for a long time, right? You what you need is that you can pick your products of your choice and then go as soon as possible from the supermarket. And therefore the most effective process achieved by performing the minimal required number of value added steps and no waste. And your time to wait in the line is categorized as a waste. And the cashier work that can be categorized as a value added become less valuable because uh, it takes maybe more than one cashier if one cashier is not so experienced or has less training, and therefore another workers or employee in that supermarket need to help his or him or her, and therefore uh, it is not effective because in order to achieve the performance, the expected performance of that cashier activity need to have more than one person. That in this example. And the task of value added management is that to reduce the waste by focusing on value added activities that can increase the efficiency of input resources usage and enable the most effective output of a process. Okay, here in our slides, in slide number 6, we have two different kinds of value of different kind of activities. The first is value added activities. That's green lines, and the second is non-value added activities. That is the red line. The task of operation managers is to reduce waste in order to improve customers' satisfaction. And in the second picture in our slide, we have been able to eliminate waste, and therefore we have only a green line. And every line stands for activities in our production or in our logistic uh, operations. For instance, the first line can be raw material received from suppliers, and the second line can be some kind of like manufacturing operations, and the third line can be distributions, and the fourth can be selling of the products to customers. And we can see from the second figure here that even though the red lines have been eliminated, but the distance between at least two lines are still far. And therefore, the next task is that to minimize the distance between two value added activities. Because by minimizing the distance, we also able to reduce costs and also process times. And that's what the tasks of operations management. However, operation management cannot solely cannot be the only function in organization. There are other two functions that support operations, that is marketing and finance. Marketing will provide resources to operations to be able to deliver product and services to end customers. And marketing will provide demand for operation to be able to produce products or services. And activities in operations uh, ranging from design and management of products, processes, and services. And it comprised of four stages: sourcing, meaning how to acquire raw materials from outside, from external; production, meaning that to convert the raw materials into final products. And afterward, we need to distribute the products from a production floor to a warehouse or distribution center. And after, from distribution center or warehouses, uh, need to deliver the product further to retailer. And we have also after sales, meaning that how do we increase the customer satisfaction by providing like a support system. For instance, in selling some like a smartphone, the after sales include how do we provide additional services to a mobile phone customer by providing some kind of warranty, also security, like for instance, something like insurance to the mobile phone, and also updates, product updates every annually or monthly. That's just all uh, examples of after sales service. And in order to achieve excellent operations, and then operation management need to measure its performance according to three pillars that compose objective triangle, that is cost, quality, and time. And therefore, operations management need to minimize cost, but at the same time have to maximize the quality at reduced processing time. And the question is that how to achieve maximum of the desirable goal with limited resources. And therefore, we need operations management. Different to operation management, now we are going into supply chain. The supply chain is a network of organizations and processes, meaning that in a supply chain, we need at least two organizations, can be autonomous organization, to collaborate and cooperate and coordinate. It can be between suppliers and manufacturers, or manufacturers and distributors, or distributors and retailers, along the entire value added chain to acquire raw materials, convert into specified final products, and to deliver these final products to customers. And yeah, this is the figure of supply chain networks. We have four suppliers deliver raw materials to three factories, that is the manufacturing centers. And from factories, they use different transportation modes, that is trucks, can be trains or ships, to distribution centers. From distribution centers, the product delivered to warehouse, like some kind of like wholesaler. From wholesaler, deliver to different retailers, in this case supermarkets, and from supermarket finally go to end customers. So we can see that the supply chain itself takes a quite high number of participants to deliver products from producers to customers. And therefore, the cost of supply chain operations is high, as much as 70% of the total cost necessary to deliver products from supplier to customer. And therefore, any small improvement in supply chains operations can reduce the cost of goods sold of a particular products or service. And now we little talk about supply chain management history. Actually, it is not quite quite old science or fields. It is invented in 1982 by Oliver and Weber, and they set out to examine material flows from raw material suppliers through supply chain to end customers within an integrated framework that is now called supply chain. And in 1982, actually, the first term of supply chain management coined by Oliver and Weber. And there are many definitions about supply chain management, but the most important thing is that we have to understand that supply chain management is cross-department and cross-enterprise integration and coordination of materials, information, and finance. Actually, these three types of flows, that is materials flow, information flow, and financial flows, are the most important topics in supply chain management. For instance, materials can be delivered from producers or from suppliers to end customer without getting information from customer about how much they would like to buy, what kind of characteristic of products they would like to buy or to purchase. And also without financial flows, it is impossible material can be transformed into products to satisfy customer needs. And therefore, in supply chain, the supply chain resources in the most rational way along the supply chain from raw material supply to customer. Supply chain management is one of the key components of any organization and is responsible for balancing demand and supply along the entire value adding chain. So if operations management also too much between demand and supply, but it is just within internal organization, but in supply chain, it is extra organization. And in front of us here, we have a picture of supply chain management for integrating production and logistic processes. We are here talking about internal chain in one organization. Let's say we have logistic that responsible for warehouse operation and production department that responsible for assembly operations. They have two different objectives. In this case, production department has an objective to optimize the production in assembly line. On the other hand, logistic manager has a responsible to optimize the warehouse-driven material and information flow. So how these two function in one single organization, coordinate, cooperate, and to collaborate? It is one simple example. In this case, production managers need to deliver demand information to logistic managers in order to logistic manager to optimize the warehouse operations. And at the same time, logistic manager should give some kind of like warranty that the raw material delivery from supplier will not be delayed, and therefore production operation can operate smoothly to deliver products to end customer without any delay. And therefore, what supply chain management function involved in this operation. It includes demand planning, that is a plan the teams, or furthermore by the marketing department to decide on how much or how many to produce. And then supply coordination, meaning that how much logistic or warehouse should deliver raw materials to production. And inventory management, how much to store, meaning that logistic managers need to decide on how much or how many to order from suppliers. And supply monitoring, meaning that it is to ensure that there are three drivers, that is from customers, from market, and also for information society. We know that recently uh, customers having more demand or mass customization, meaning that individual customer would like to be serviced differently, not the same as other customers, and therefore they need more individualized products. Even if they would like to be serviced individually, they do not want to have that service or products in a lower speed, even in higher speed. And they would like to be service flexible. For instance, if we in this current pandemic, supermarket need to deliver service to customers not only in store but also by using online shopping. And there is no any difference between online shopping and in-store shopping, because those two different customers need to be serviced at the same speed, even at a higher speed. And also the variety of products need to be available to both online shoppers and offline shoppers. And also the market globalization, emerging markets, for instance, in developing country, because they have higher population as compared to developed country, and therefore uh, developed country who produce more advanced technology in manufacturing need to find a bigger market, and therefore the transportation and distribution operation become more complex. It's not like before when, for instance, in the UK, in order to deliver to northern and southern Ireland is quite easy. But what happened if manufacturing facility in the UK would like, or in the Republic of Ireland, would like to expand their markets to China, to India, or even to Latin America? It is more complex distribution system, more complex transportation, and and therefore sometimes they consider to outsource the production. And therefore recently there are so many global players in manufacturing, like in auto industries. Many like German automakers have established their production facility in China or in India or in Thailand or in Malaysia, just to minimize costs, but at the same time not to reduce the speed of delivery of their products. And lastly, coming from information society, by the advent of internet or IT system with new business concept that is revolutionize the industrial activities across the globe. That is some kind of like a place that supply chain management can be implemented, because in supply chain management, as we know in the previous slide, that there are three kind of flows. The first is material flows, and then financial flows, and finally information flows. And for the last flows, that is information flows, the advent of internet and IT system with new business concept to be the drivers of supply chain management development. And therefore, supply chain management become more and more popular. It is not anymore become the terminology of logistician, but also in business, also in engineering, like what we are now studying. And from Friedman, it says that supply chaining is one of the main drivers that would make the world more competitive on a global scale in the 21st and maybe in 22nd or 23rd century. Okay, now we are going into supply chain and operations management. In our slide, we have two figures. In the left side, we have a disk that consists of four parts. Each part represents fields or expertise that can support supply chain and operations management. We, we have business administration, engineering, optimization and simulation, and information technology. In the right side is the house of supply chain and operations management. The two pillars of supply chain and operations management house are sourcing and production, and the other pillar is distribution and transportation. As a foundation of supply chain and operations management house are decision theory and operational research. Because when we would like to compose like decision making in supply chain and operations management, we have to compose by considering the principle of decision theory and operational research. And therefore, the roof of our house is networking technology, meaning that in order to operate supply chain and operations management into action, we need networking technology that connect sourcing, production, distribution, and transportation. Now let's take a look at our example here about chocolate supply chain. In this example, we assume that cocoa pods are imported from faraway country, let's say Ivory Coast, and these pods transported into a harbor to be packed and shipped to faraway country, let's say to Europe, by using ship. And from harbor in Europe, in one location in Europe, the cocoa pods transported to chocolate manufacturing centers, where in those centers, these cocoa pods would be mixed with other ingredients, for example, buttermass, vanilla, milk powder, and sugar in pre-processing and production process. And afterwards, the final products, that is chocolate, will be transported to supermarket before the supermarket distribute the chocolate to end customer. So these are an example of chocolate supply chains that operate globally. And in our next slide, we see that supply chain consists of sourcing, production, and distribution stages, where those three stages supported by information technology. And each stages, for instance, sourcing, has three different levels of execution, planning, and strategy. So in strategic level, sourcing consists of supplier selection and sourcing strategy. In planning level, the sourcing activity consists of material requirement planning, economic order quantity, and activity-based costing analysis. And in execution level, then ordering and inventory control to be part of sourcing. The same way employees for production, distribution, and IT. IT as a support system for sourcing, production, and distribution. Now let's take a look at the responsibilities of supply chain and operations management managers. They have multifaceted decision-making areas. ranging from strategic to tactical and operative level. In strategic level, the decision making includes determination of the size and location of manufacturing plants or distribution centers, or decisions on the structure of the service networks, factory planning, design of the network itself, and therefore strategic decision making should be done in at most every 1 year or even longer, because it is not possible, for instance, we relocate our facility to one place to another within less than 1 year, because it takes a lot of investment involved in that action. Different to tactical level. In tactical level decision making, for instance, production capacity planning, transportation capacity planning on transportation, uh, design on inventory planning, it takes the decision ranging from 1 month to 1 year. Let's take an example. If we would like to change our production capacity because of the demand changes, it doesn't need to wait until 1 year. It can be done every 3 months or even every month, depending on the variability of the demand. Similarly, for transportation, if we would like to deliver our products to several destinations using different kinds of transportation modes, it doesn't necessarily to wait until 1 year or even more than 1 year to change the modes of the transportation. For instance, during a winter, it is better to ship products by using train, because maybe the cost of trucking is more expensive. But maybe during summer, using train is more expensive than during using trucks. That's that one example of how to switch from uh, one transportation mode to another transportation mode. And what about inventory planning? Inventory planning can be re-evaluated every 3 months or every 4 months or even every month. Let's take an example. Because of the cyclical nature of our demand, then we need to find the best inventories policy that can minimize our inventory level in our warehouse. So what about operative level? In operative level, the decisions can be taken in every day or even in every week. For instance, in production scheduling and control, also in inventory control, also in quality control and inspection. Let's take an example. If we are a quality control manager and we suspect that there is something wrong in our production process, and we don't have to wait until 1 month or even until 1 year to make correction. We can do it immediately after checking the quality control chart that can take data online from our process in every hour or in every minute, in every second even. Also for vehicle routing, let's take example, bus scheduling, city bus scheduling, or maybe also intercity bus scheduling. Depending on the traffic, depending on the density of the passengers, vehicle routing can be changed at any time. For instance, in the morning, maybe more buses to be deployed to service passengers to go to work. But maybe during non uh, non-busy hour, maybe for instance from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., then the frequency of vehicle routing will be reduced in order to adjust with the density of the passenger. And also for traffic and materials handling and equipment maintenance policies. Okay, now we are going into trends and challenges in supply chain and operations management. If we uh, look at our current situation where pandemic attack our society, then risk management and resilient supply chain become paramountly important. So nowadays, the biggest challenge in the supply chain is that how to give supply to our end customer without any delay, while our suppliers, most of our suppliers, has limitation to supply because of this pandemic. There are lockdown, also there are many movement restrictions across the globe, and that makes transportation is not run well as before. Another trend is that business analytics, because now data is more powerful weapon in competition, in business competition, and therefore business analytics now appears to be to be some kind like asset in supply chain and operations management. So business analytics is about how to analyze our markets for demand planning, how to analyze our process in process diagnostic in our operations. And the next trends about information technology. We are now there are many terminologies like buzzword about big data, cloud computing, industry 4.0, and data mining, not only for business applications, but also in supply chain management, network, for instance. Also sustainability. It is how to make our supply chain operates sustainably, meaning that it will not run out of supply, also not run out of buyer or customers by producing products or services with relatively in a green operations, meaning that it will consume the supply chain operation consume at least as possible energy, and the energy taken from sustainable resources, and also the supply chain must give also benefit to the societies around the supply chain locations. And another trend is about flexibility and standardization. Yeah, because of the pressure of mass customization, customers would like to be serviced individually, and they have more freedom to choose product at whatever they want, and therefore supply chain has a challenges in providing those customization with least cost, and therefore supply chain need to standardize not only the products but also standardize the process. And therefore a concept of agile supply chain, lean supply chain, also lean and agile, and we combine both by using lean agile supply chain appear recently. And those simplification, it is about the process inside the supply chain. For instance, if we are considering now about the Brexit will separate UK with the rest of European Union, and therefore the import products from UK to European Union will be more complicated because of many administrative works will be employed. And in that case, supply chain management need to simplify the process. And another trends about the acceleration of product life cycle. So because of the mass customization, product life cycles become shorter, and product introduction, the time to market of product of produced by supply chain, particular supply chain, becomes shorter. And in that case, innovation should be the key for supply chain and operations management. How to produce products with new variety that is needed by customer to increase the added value of the product to the customer. And another trend is additive manufacturing, and another name is that 3D printing. And during this pandemic, I think 3D printing has a room for to be introduced in supply chain management. For instance, in order to produce PPE or personal protective equipment for medical, also for patient during this pandemic, then 3D printing can take a role to produce very highly customized product at a shorter time. Thank you.